We're back now from Minneapolis. At this point of the broadcast, we usually present our Eye on America segment. Instead, we're continuing our special coverage of the shooting here in Minneapolis. Pope Leo XIV, a Chicago native, fellow Midwesterner, sent a note today to Archbishop Bernard Hebda of Minneapolis, the Pope expressing his heartfelt condolences to all. Earlier, I spoke with Amy Klobuchar, the senior U.S. Senator from Minnesota.
Well, I know a lot of the parents and relatives of the kids that were in that room, including one of my employees that I still hold tight. She's an incredible woman. She had 3 kids in that room, and one of them was literally sitting right near her friends, which kids often do, and watch them being shot, one in the stomach, one in the neck. She was not shot. They were all, hiding under the pews. And you're going to hear incredible acts of heroism of members of the church, leaders in the church, teachers, older kids, that basically saved the lives of these kids as we hear the bells of the church ring. And so this little girl runs out and has to tell the dad of one of the kids that his child was shot.
How are people handling this? How are people coping?
I think one of the things is this is such a close-knit community. Yes, it was church, but it also was a school, and it also was neighborhood. When you look at the church, you see there's a house next to a house, next to a shop, next to a restaurant, and this is an incredible community that's standing up for each other, and you see that every single day here.
You hear thoughts and prayers coming in from around the country, around the world. To the people who say, enough with the thoughts and prayers, we have to do something differently, what do you say?
Well, I believe in prayer, and I believe in people gathering together to support each other. But I think what they're talking about there is that at some point there has to be action. And to me, that action means finally doing something about guns. I remember meeting with the Sandy Hook parents, and they were there in Washington to advocate for a federal background check bill. And they knew that wouldn't have saved their babies. But they thought, well, I'm going to use my tragedy of what happened to me and make it better for some other family. And I know that's what you'll see coming out of this.
On a gut level, another mass shooting in America, and it's in your home state, in this community. How does that sit with you?
Well, the first thing you just think about as a parent is those times when you brought your child to school and that excitement of the first week and who the new teacher is. That's what these families are going through. And as the mayor said, you got to think of these as your kids too, because your reaction, of course, is pain and horror, and then you think, well, my kid wasn't there. Well, it could happen anywhere because it happened here.
The amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
Those words yesterday from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey after yesterday's mass shooting at a Catholic school. 2 children dead at this hour, 14 children and others hurt. 3 additional people injured in this shooting. As a community mourns, there is a lot we don't know, but a familiar question comes to mind. How does this keep happening in these United States of America? To talk about that and his community's mourning, Mayor Jacob Frey joins us now. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us. I think what brought this home for me is one of the kids yesterday came out and he said, I didn't know what to do. We had trained for a shooting at school, but not at church. And it just underscores how normal in some quarters this has become, and yet how shocking it is at the very same time. What can you tell us at this hour about the investigation? And I'm sure you've talked to families that are mourning. What are they telling you this morning?
I can tell you that this shouldn't be normalized. This is an unspeakable tragedy. Then again, how many times have we heard mayors from across the country say exactly that? Right now, we have a city united in grief, and at the same time, we have a city united in action, because this kind of thing cannot happen again. I've said this before, thoughts and prayers, they're certainly welcome, but they're not enough.
So, Mayor,
these kids were literally in church praying.
Yeah. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you focused on that action. We've heard your words. They've been powerful and very passionate in the aftermath here. What kind of action do you want to see so this doesn't happen as regularly as it does right now in America?
Oh, red flag laws are important, but they don't go far enough. Assault weapons bans. I mean, right now, we have more guns in America than we have people. That's a problem. There are other countries in the world where some sort of horrific shooting takes place, and then they take the action to make the necessary change so that it doesn't happen again. Whereas here in America, it seems like it's every couple of months, if not more, something like this happens. You can have guns come into the city by the trunk load, that people can get their hands on guns that have, as in this case, severe mental health issues. That's not acceptable. And by the way, we should be doing this out of love for our children, not out of hatred for anybody else, but out of love for our kids. And we should not be looking at these kids that got shot yesterday as just somebody else's kids. Think of them as your own kids. Yeah. Think of the last interactions that you had with your kids this morning when you said goodbye to them, you shoved them some applesauce, you said, hey, come on, get your shoes on, let's go. These little annoyances are also incredibly beautiful, and you should have the assurance that your kid can go to school or church or out on the street or to the basketball court, whatever it is, safely, and then you're going to get to see them that night.
You're right about that, Mayor. And in the wake of tears, the thoughts and prayers, we do hear about the red flag laws and restrictions or even bans on assault rifles. But what are the next steps? What can our lawmakers do? What can you do to ensure that these aren't just things we are throwing in the air, but they are sustainable changes to what is happening in America?
Well, you're going to hear me loud and clear, voicing for as great restrictions as we can possibly get here. I'm a mayor. I fill potholes. We try to put up more affordable housing. We try to keep people safe. But as mayors, we're also very much on the front lines dealing with some of the repercussions when we don't see action at other levels of government. And while there has been, at least in the case of Minnesota, some progress made, we need more, not just in this state, but nationwide. We need to recognize that we love our children more than we love our guns. We need to recognize as a country that when something like this happens, we've got the courage and the conviction to act. And, you know, we all have titles in professional life, but I'll tell you the titles that matter most to me. It's husband and dad. And I only got a few hours of sleep last night. We have a 3-week-old and a almost 5-year-old. She'd tell you 4 3/4. And the things that would normally be, it may be a little bit frustrating. You know, she crawled into bed last night, you know, kicked me in the head. I'm changing diapers at 2 a.m. These are things that you cherish, especially after something horrid like yesterday takes place. And we all, again, need to think of our own children and recognize that somebody else is grieving right now. And so right now, you got a whole city that is wrapping their arms with love around these families that are experiencing their worst moments of their entire lives.
They definitely are, Mayor.
And we can act so it doesn't happen again.
Well, to that point, I mean, you said that people need to realize that we need to love our kids, our children, more than our guns. What can actually be done? What do you think is really possible here in this country? Because people are passionate about the right to own a gun and to defend themselves.
If I could just put a button on that, Mayor, what people who own guns will say is, it's because I love my children that I own this gun. I want to be able to protect them if an intruder comes in, if I am the victim of a crime. What do you say to those sorts of advocates?
Well, first off, I hear them. And by the way, we're not talking about your father's hunting rifle right now. We are saying that we have far too many guns in this country. And when you have this arms buildup by people, I mean, we're not even talking about arms buildup by nations, arms buildup by people, let's be real, it doesn't help. And so I understand the fear that people have. I get it. And at the same time, the individual, the shooter from yesterday, had a whole heap ton of guns. Why? Why is it necessary that you should be able to buy not just one gun, but like a gun every single month? You don't need 12 guns a year. Why should you have the ability not just to reel off a bullet, but spray a heap ton of them all at once? or have a magazine clip worth of even more bullets. Why do you need that? You're not killing deer or ducks with an assault rifle like that. And so, I just think we need to be operating in reality here. I'm a mayor. I'm in the reality business.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we have far too many guns coming into cities around the country, and we need to do something about it, not just sit back on our hands and say thoughts and prayers.
Well, Mayor Frey, thank you for joining us. We hope that you get some sleep and your community gets some much-needed healing. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Brian O'Hara is with us now. He's the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department. Chief, good morning. I know that we've just marked 24 hours since this carnage unfolded, and I know that you and many of your officers have seen things that our viewers have not. So I first just want to ask how you and your people are holding up today.
Good morning. Well, I know it's been difficult the last 24 hours for a number of our officers. Not just the first officers who arrived on scene and ran into the church and just saw unspeakable tragedy, but really all of the officers who responded in the aftermath, our professional staff, our crime lab. Obviously, we're all people. We're men and women that have children ourselves. And this is just an unthinkable tragedy. So I know it has deeply affected a number of our members.
And I know everyone there appreciates the work of you and the other police officers. What new information are you learning about the moments before the shooting as everyone tries to figure out why this happened?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we believe the shooter arrived at the church a few minutes before the shooting began. The first call to 911 came in, and about 3 minutes later, the first Minneapolis police officer was on the scene. A member of the parish told me yesterday that they were inside terrified as the shooting was happening and helping to hide kids from the danger. And they told me that they saw a uniformed member of the Minneapolis Police Department run into the church with no helmet, no SWAT gear, no rifle, and asked the parishioner, "Where's the shooting coming from?" And they saw that officer, without hesitating, run towards the danger, like so many other members of the department did yesterday. And he told me that was the first sense of safety that they had felt, that they might actually survive. So I know we're going to hear really dozens and dozens of stories of heroism from other children that were there trying to help protect their classmates, from members of the staff, from the parish there. And I'm sure there will be just countless stories of heroism. And we're just incredibly thankful that this wasn't even more tragic than it was.
Yeah, that's remarkable. At the top of the show, we heard from one little boy who said a friend of his covered him with their own body. So you're right, from adults to children, everybody jumped in. Earlier, CBS News spoke with the mayor of Minneapolis, that's Jacob Frey, and he's right now calling for gun reform. Let's just listen to what he said.
Oh, red flag laws are important, but they don't go far enough. Assault weapons bans. The shooter from yesterday had a whole ton of guns. Why? Why is it necessary that you should be able to buy not just one gun, but like a gun every single month?
And Chief, what do you make of that? Minneapolis is subject to the state's red flag laws, but the suspect got these weapons legally. So from your perspective, could anything have been done differently ahead of time, if anything?
Well, I can tell you this has been a very, very difficult week for our community here. This wasn't the only shooting that happened this week in Minneapolis, but really this incident is different from what is unfortunately typical in terms of gun violence. We typically do not have people who lawfully purchase firearms and lawfully possess them getting involved in shootings and murders in our city. That being said, there's nothing in the evidence that we have found so far to indicate that this person should not have been able to purchase these weapons. He lawfully obtained a permit to purchase. It does not appear that he had any state-ordered mental health confinement, no criminal history, so nothing that the current laws would prevent him from lawfully purchasing firearms in the state. But again, that is not what is typical as far as the day-to-day violence, not just in cities here in Minnesota, but in cities around our country. What we have seen so far with the evidence, unfortunately, is this is a deranged individual who, like so many other mass shooters, has had an obsession with previous mass shootings that was looking to cause as much trauma and carnage as possible for their own personal notoriety. We have not been able to narrow down a specific motive in this case, but we have seen, just countless pieces of evidence that indicate a whole wide variety of hate towards various individuals and various groups of people. We have not completed going through all of the evidence that's been recovered, but we are hopeful that once we do have that completed, we will release the information that we have, what we've learned. But I think at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to provide any sense to something that is truly senseless.
Right, right. And that point you make about the shooter being obsessed with other mass shooters is a big reason why we and other networks are limiting the use of their name and even their image. In our last few seconds, what questions do you have? What areas do you want to pursue in your investigation to try and find out if this type of thing can be prevented?
Well, we are going to follow all of the evidence to its logical conclusion. A number of search warrants were conducted yesterday, obtaining physical evidence. I do not believe any other locations are planned on to be searched in the future. However, I think there's some electronic devices that may wind up being searched in the future, and we're going to continue to go through everything that we have. But again, people want answers. People want to know what a motive could have been, but everything that we've seen so far, we have not seen an indication of a triggering event that would have caused him to target this particular church. Obviously, we know he was a student there in the past. He had been a parishioner. His mom had worked at the church. But from everything that we have seen so far, this is an individual with a whole wide variety of hate towards lots of groups and lots of people that sort of is following this classic pathway to a mass shooting.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned, it's very early. It's the first 24 hours, and we echo the support from the community for you and your other officers who've risked their lives to keep people safe. We want to make sure you guys take care of your mental health as well, because this is not an easy job you all have. Chief Brian O'Hara, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.